All right, so the market trading sideways in many ways is still subdued. The currency is still under a lot of pressure. Any good news coming out of this market today?
Okay, the only good news is what the results we are getting from the financials. We saw KCB, cooperative, and equity recording double-digit growth rates. However, we also saw a bit of slide on Barclays Bank, marginally 2%. Yeah. And we saw about NBK about 20% down. However, given all those scenarios, there's some hope in the sense that we are seeing the conclusion of the BRITAC IPO tomorrow. There've been some uptake of inquiries towards the end, the last minute. So we expect they might just be able to fill up the full issue.
Let's talk about those results coming through, because I think the blue chip banks have really shown great results, steep growth in the first half of the year. It's not quite so for the smaller banks, and it's an interesting picture for the insurers. I mean, when we look at Jubilee's results, they're quite stellar as well.
Okay, well, you're right. The blue chip banks have really shown some stellar growth. This is partly because they have more revenue streams in terms of the lending. They have a lower cost of funding as opposed to the smaller banks. And also there's been a bit of tightness in the liquidity market, and that has taken a toll on the smaller banks because they've increased their cost of the overnight lending. On the insurance companies, I think they've done a bit of education and there's more uptake of insurance, both personal and commercial, right, because of various prevailing circumstances. However, going forward, the next half year doesn't seem like it'll be a bit very rosy because of the factors. We see that inflation is still looming high at 15.53. We also seen that the interest rates are bound to go up marginally because some of the banks have actually increased their base lending rates. So we are bound to see a bit of slowdown on consumer lending, which will also boil down into less consumption by the populace. So right, this is going to hit down on various industrial balance sheets as well as the banks.
Okay, although the banks have been showing us good results today, they only accounted for less than 4% of the day's trade. The big activity today was in the telecoms side, renewed interest in Safaricom, but the price just stays the same, somewhere in between 3 shillings 65, 3 shillings 75.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Actually, on the banks, the dismal performances I had mentioned earlier on, because the investors are not seeing a bright future going forward. That's why they're a bit staying out. Maybe until the third quarter results are released, then they can make some definite decisions. However, on Safaricom, which has been a darling for various reasons, because right now we've seen some bit of purchases are coupled with also sales, because we find that the foreigners are actually selling and we have a bit of locals buying. So they are more or less balancing out, because some of the investors feel like this is a good price to buy at, and going forward, because of prevailing situations, the innovations they've done towards data, and they're saying that the voice revenues are going to keep coming down, but data is the next frontier, and they're really positioned for that. That's why they feel that it's a niche investment at this point in time.
You mentioned earlier the British American investment company, their IPO. Let's talk about expected subscription levels, because, you know, when they came on stream, people said this is probably not a time to be trying to raise capital in the market. This is not a time to be introducing yourself. And when we look at TransCentury's listing, yes, the price was a bit expensive, but there was just a sense that timing all round was not very good.
Well, what I would say is that it was a bold move, but coupled by their strong financials, it's a good buy, and I expect between 90 to 95% uptake on subscription. They might just narrowly miss the full uptake, because you see the insurance business, as you're saying, is on the uptake. Yeah. So definitely their future earnings are guaranteed, and people will want to run on that.
All right, the shilling. Comment about that, please. It's feeling a lot more pressure. Yes, there is a lot of demand from the energy sector, but we're now seeing it at 92 shillings, 12 cents.
Well, the shilling is under pressure, partly because there's some renewed demand from the energy, and also there's a lot of maize being imported because of the drought that we're experiencing. However, the inflows are quite thin, and so this is actually a supply issue until we start getting those flows coming in, because now this is a peak tourism season. Maybe towards the end of the month into next month, you might see the flows crystallizing. Then you might see the shilling actually starting to gain ground.
And then talking about the shilling, high inflation, what has that meant for bond yields in Kenya? Because a lot of these banks where they did see negative impact on their earnings was their exposure to government treasuries. It wasn't probably the best of investment moves. What do you expect going forward?
Okay, going forward, a lot of banks have actually been hit because of the revaluation, because of the rates going up, and some of them have actually stayed out of the bond market for about a month or two. Going forward, because the inflation is a supply side, once that has been sorted out, with the commodities being cushioned, with the government providing maize at lower prices, we're bound to start seeing the inflation tapering, but maybe we have a lag of about a month. So going into September, mid-September into October, we're likely to start seeing a turn on the rates, and that will lead to increased bond trades. But at the moment, yes, a lot of banks are hurting.